Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and I've been doing a daily countdown of my 366 favorite video games of all time. Kicking off the top 10 is a game very near and dear to my heart. It's To the Moon. All year long, I have been praising the work of Kan Gao, creator of this series. To the Moon started it all, and it has all of the things I've been talking about. It has beautiful music, and I still maintain that Kan could get an Academy Award for Best Score if he ever decided to pursue a full feature-length film, but it has fun, witty dialogue with a delightful balance of comedy and serious moments, and although there's basically no real gameplay to speak of, being literally just an RPG Maker game with pretty much none of the RPG elements, this game starts the top 10 because it is, for me specifically, the greatest story ever written. Literally nothing has ever made me cry like To the Moon. I think actually nothing in my entire life. I played it once, not that long after it came out, and though I love it to pieces, and it's really short, only about 4 hours long, I never replayed it until this week, when I did it all again to record for this video. Being the main thing I love about the game is the story, so it's actually factually impossible to talk about it without just spoiling the whole thing if I'm going to talk about why I like it. I'll give you a warning before we leave the first act and start seeing what's really going on with the big spoiler stuff though, so if you want to avoid that, you can dip out when we get there. The game follows two scientists, Neil Watts and Eva Rosaline, as they do their job for a company called the Sigmund Corporation. Sigmund offers a very unique service in that they've developed a machine that interfaces with the human brain to create new memories, modifying and replacing previous ones. What they do with this is offer patients on their deathbed the ability to pass away believing they've accomplished whatever their greatest dream is. Their patient tonight is a man named Johnny Wiles, and he is likely to pass in the next day or two. There's not a lot of time going on here. He has this rather nice house on a coastal cliff next to an old, otherwise abandoned lighthouse. It's a beautiful place, though maybe not the safest spot to build your home, but living with Johnny is Lily, his in-home caretaker, and also her two young children. Johnny's wife, River, had passed away a couple of years prior, so he would have otherwise just been alone. The kids are playing a nice little melody on the piano together, and that's somewhat important. Lily and the medical doctor assisting you explain that Johnny's wish was to go to the moon, but they're not sure why. While slightly tedious, it's not a big issue yet. As Neil sets up the machinery, Eva takes a tour of the house with the kids to maybe find some clues as to Johnny's personality and motivations, but very bizarrely, what she finds is hundreds of origami rabbits. Like, just insane amounts of origami rabbits. She also finds a stuffed platypus and grabs that to show Neil. But first, the kids want to take her to the lighthouse, so she goes to check that out too, and at the top of the lighthouse she finds even more of these origami rabbits. But very critically, one of them is unlike the rest, and is multicolored in blue and gold. This is quite a mystery, and we'll untangle it throughout the game, though the answers aren't explicitly stated. I think it's one of the better narrative devices Gao uses, and I've got some theories, but I'll address that when we get there. Neil's ready to go, and the two of you dive into the mind of Johnny Wiles. The general procedure here is that you access the most recent stable memory of the patient, extract the person's identity from it, and then create a copy layer for you to mess around with and gather information from the person. After they calm Johnny down and he understands what's happening, he explains that yes, his wish is to go to the moon, but also he has no idea why. This is definitely an issue now, but not an insurmountable one. The doctors explain that as long as they can work back sufficiently far enough through his memories, leaping from scene to scene, they can thread a needle all the way back to childhood and plant that strong desire back there, and then the machine can kind of do the rest and conjure up a life where he went to the moon. Simple stuff, really. So backwards we go. Keep in mind that we're flowing backwards in time, step by step, and we generally don't have context for why things happen as we see them, and we have to piece it together later. In order to go from time to time, we have to collect little mementos, basically these orbs from finding items, people, events, or even locations within the overall memory, and then piece them together on one key item that links back to the previous memory, and solve a rudimentary puzzle about flipping little tiles on a picture to make it whole. These get progressively harder over the course of the game, but they never actually get that hard. I don't mind that they're easy. They're pretty relaxing, and while some of them are, easy, right? They can get interesting at least. But most importantly, this allows us to tie together things in our own brains, starting to draw connections and discern patterns across settings and characters throughout Johnny's entire life, and it works very well to that end. When we go back the first time, we find Johnny all sad and alone in his home, surrounded by these origami rabbits. Where did they come from? Why does he have them all? Who made them? Importantly, he's playing the same song the kids were playing, but is clearly struggling emotionally. The platypus is also there, and that's pretty important. Going back one more jump, we find him mourning over his wife's grave right next to the lighthouse. He talks about someone named Anya, but importantly, as Eva reveals herself to talk to him, he implies that River's death could have been avoided, and then he turns to silence in his grief. Going back one more time, we finally get to meet River. This is late in her life, and she's got that platypus next to her along with a book. She's concerned about money, saying there isn't enough to go around, and tells Johnny she intends to deny the treatment that would save her life, telling Johnny he needs to watch over Anya. Then, she gives him the multicolored rabbit and asks him to describe it. Despite his best attempts, he's unable to describe it to her satisfaction, apparently, and Johnny grows frustrated. So to change the topic, he wants to show her a song he wrote for her on the piano, which he had hauled up to the bedroom. We learn the song that he was playing and that the kids played is called For River, and it was dedicated, of course, to his wife. All Johnny wanted to do was share this emotional, simple, yet heartfelt song he wrote for his wife before she passed. I can absolutely relate to the idea of wanting to share with someone as a way to connect with them, and this was Johnny's way of telling River for possibly one last time how much he loved her, even though, as we'll learn, that may have not always been communicated the best. It's a beautiful gesture and one that really hit home for me. And speaking of hitting home, the next scene hit me way harder on this second playthrough than it did the first time. Johnny has been working on building the house, and he's talking to one of River's friends about her new diagnosis and the money. With the medical bills and the cost of construction, they realistically just can't afford both. He says he'll lie to River and say that they'll make it. Johnny expresses concern that River might choose the house over her own life, and obviously he was right, but Isabel says that's not up to him. This conversation is the first clue we get as the game goes on, and this is revealed, that River is autistic, and she is very set on what she wants. Before leaving, Izzy gives Johnny a music box as a gift from her husband, who is one of Johnny's oldest friends. I totally forgot this was coming and wasn't ready. She explains the song is called Everything's Alright, and, well, it is. I mean, that's the song. We'll revisit why I started very suddenly crying in a bit. Moving a little quicker now, we discover that there's been a lot of tension to Johnny and River's marriage, largely revolving around a truth that Johnny had hid from River for a long time, but also surrounding the lighthouse. We learn that Anya is not a person, but actually the lighthouse. River and Johnny gave it a name, and River's very emotionally attached to the structure because, well, she just really likes lighthouses, and Anya is one of the last ones left in the country of its type. Going back a little further, we see more of the sources of their marital issues. River's still got that platypus everywhere, but one day she started making all of these origami rabbits. We don't know why yet, but she's become fairly non-verbal with Johnny, and instead keeps focusing all of her attention on these rabbits. Again, she asks him to describe the rabbits, and Johnny just cannot come up with enough of a description to satisfy what she's looking for. Going back a little further, we find a conversation between the two where Johnny has clearly upset River, and this is what made her go over the edge with the rabbits. We don't know what it was yet, but know that it has to do with why they started dating in the first place. Even further back, we've reached Johnny and River's wedding, and they get married on the cliff with Anya. There's actually a really nice scene the evening of their wedding where they name Anya and then go upstairs and dance in Anya's light. After all that tension regarding their marriage, it's nice to see something positive. Notably, however, at the reception, Johnny's mother doesn't call him Johnny. She says Joey, and he winds up explaining it to River that it was his grandfather's middle name, and she called him that as a nickname. Seems innocent enough, right? As you head down to the road, you find some roadkill. It's a dead rabbit. At this point, a lot of things can start to come into focus. It seems likely that River's obsession with the rabbits after her marriage begins to break down stems from potentially this moment. She really latched onto the rabbit dead on the road at her wedding day, and yet Johnny hardly paid it a second thought. But if you start looking a bit closer when considering the rabbits, you might notice that the last one River made appears to be roughly the same colors as her wedding dress. It could be that she sees herself as the rabbit, and that may have been what she was looking for Johnny to notice. At this point in the game, it's hard to tell. I have even more thoughts on the rabbits, but we need to go deeper to get to that. As we go back further, we start seeing scenes of Johnny and River dating, and going all the way back to when Johnny first asked River out on a date. She's reading a book about lighthouses, and shy and awkward, and Johnny is so nervous and clearly really likes her. But then when we back up just a little bit more, he's talking to his friend about asking her out, and he doesn't even seem to care much about her specifically. It's weird. Like, he just wants to date someone that's different and odd. This appears to be what Johnny had hidden from River, which led to her spiraling out of control, of course. But Johnny's an absolute dick, right? But none of this makes sense. Why would he hold on to this? Why would he go through all the effort just to do this for his whole life? It doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, like, he seems to, at many times, really, really care and love her. So where is this tension, this dissonance coming from? We can't really go back further to kind of find out, because something's blocking us, which is very weird, and the doctors have never seen anything like it, but decide they probably went back far enough and try to send the signal to plant the desire to go to the moon. Which is great, except nothing happens. They try kickstarting it by manually placing references to the moon in key memories, which is actually a very funny sequence, but that doesn't work either. Frustrated and completely sleep deprived, they agree to call it a night and check into things to come back later. This is where we start getting towards the big twist, so if you want to duck out now, this is the time. But really, this big twist is absolutely the reason the game is so special to me, and because of that, you're going to get probably more personal information about me than you bargained for. Neil's been making some calls and found out there was some medical records for Johnny they didn't originally have access to. As a child, he had received beta blockers, which have a side effect of severe memory loss. There was clearly some traumatic event that had been blocked from his memory, and he was forced to forget. In an effort to figure out what could retrieve those memories, moving the blocks so they'd go back further, they realized there was a strong scent in the blocked memory, which matches that of the rabbit roadkill. Importantly, you might have noticed at the very start of this video, though I didn't draw attention to it, that Neil had run over a squirrel with the car. The sense of smell is the strongest sense associated with memory. And unfortunately for Eva, she has to go pick up that dead squirrel. They revive the memory and get back in there. The memento for this scene is a soccer ball. We see Johnny running around, though the memory is a bit scattered, probably due to the beta blockers confusing things a bit. His mom is talking to a friend, and we, the player, are privy to this conversation, though the doctors are not. The friend asks how the boys are doing. The boys. Gradually, Eva has a realization. In an earlier scene, when we see the inside of the house, there was a bunk bed in Johnny's room. When Johnny's mom backs out of the driveway, the car stops suddenly and there's a loud thud, and we see she's supposedly run over Johnny with her car, killing him. Another boy appears in the memory, and we learn that it is, or rather was, Johnny's identical twin brother, Joey. This sudden, unexpected revelation hit me out of left field the first time I played the game, and it basically destroyed me. If you've been following along on the channel for a while, or if you're someone that actually knows me, this makes a lot of sense. For those of you that are unaware, I have an identical twin brother. His name is Tyler, and we're very close. When I played this game for the first time and I got to this moment, we were seniors in high school. We were at my dad's house. It was something like 1 a.m. I just walked out of my room, went into Tyler's, and saw he was still awake doing whatever on his computer. I think he may have been looking for something for League of Legends, maybe, but I gave him a great big hug. I told him I love him, explained nothing, and then went back to my room, got in bed, and just broke down sobbing and cried myself to sleep. Then, the next morning, I got up, went over to my computer, and finished the game. We get some more early childhood memories of Johnny and Joey together, and they get along great. Of course, there's the bunk bed, and I have a lot of bunk bed memories, and there's some tension, some competition between the two, but it's largely external, and Joey definitely gets more love. Clearly, he's the favorite. I will say this is one part of their dynamic I can't relate to, but everything else is highly relatable to me. We check out this carnival in town, and it's a lot of fun. There's mini games you can play and check out some funny carnival stuff, but the important thing here is getting really back to the main story. I had actually forgotten a lot of this because, well, obviously I was dwelling quite a bit on some other stuff. Johnny makes an excuse to go play on the playground, but sneaks away to a small cliff. The night sky is beautiful, and he's just enjoying getting away from the large crowds because he hates those. And hey, me too. And he's just checking out the stars and the moon because he loves those. And hey, me too. And who else appears but a small girl with red hair? Her name is River. This is the first time they actually met, and they spent a long time just sitting under the stars together, talking and stargazing. They wind up trying to make their own constellations, and the first thing River finds is a rabbit. At first, John can't see it. But when he does, he starts describing the rabbit in great detail. All of the little anatomical parts, the feet, the ears, the fuzzy little paws, and the moon, its great big belly. It becomes apparent that the reason River started making those origami rabbits had nothing to do with the wedding at all. She started doing it after she realized that John didn't remember the first time they met, when she had been clinging onto that all along. John won the platypus at the carnival and gives it to her here as a gift before leaving. She held onto that thing the entire time, cherishing it and keeping it safe, holding dearly to John, trying to desperately reconnect with the love of her life and the person that truly, the only one that made her feel like she belonged. And when they promise that if they ever forgot or lose each other, they'll meet again on the moon with the rabbit. I didn't even realize this the first time I played the game, but River's last rabbit, what she so wanted John to see, was that it was that constellation all over again. The limbs were a dark navy blue, like the starlit night sky, and in the middle was the glorious full moon from their first meeting, wanting to meet that person again. As touching as this all is, we've still got a job to do, and damn it, Eva's going to do it. She figures out that the thing that's blocking Johnny from going to the moon is, of course, Joey's death, right? One thing I kind of glossed over here is that a lot of Johnny's behavioral traits he displayed throughout his actual life were previously things that Joey did. His favorite foods, he loved the Animorphs books, this came up as a thing, some of his mannerisms, his dreams, his ambitions, all of them, except for River. And in a manner, that was the problem. Eva figured this out, and she's way ahead of Neil on it. He tries to stop her, but it's too late. Eva removes River from this part of Johnny's life, and somehow that allows Joey to survive. Maybe he was able to see the car and stop Joey or something, I don't know. But what I do know is that watching the two of them have the happy, successful lives they both always deserved together made me ugly cry at like 7 in the morning, and that's never a great thing. The reason this all hit me so hard is because it made me realize, probably for the first real time in my life, that I have absolutely no idea what I would do without Tyler. Until we were 19, almost 20 years old, the longest amount of time we had spent apart had probably been a day or two. Sure, we argued, we fought, sometimes we annoyed each other to no end, but at the same time, we have a shared connection in a way that I think is unlikely for anyone else to really fully understand, and are there for each other constantly. There's scenes you're about to see where Joey in his adult life starts to find success in chasing his dream as an author. Meanwhile, in my own life, Tyler is not off, but getting his master's degree, and I'm so incredibly proud of him. But remember the music box earlier in the game? This is the song. Everything's Alright by Laura Shigehara, and I can't really listen to this without getting emotional because of everything it represents and everything I'm so grateful for in my own life. Johnny needed Joey, and I need Tyler.
You're with me, then everything's alright.
Alex and Tyler at 7.5 months. They're getting ready to take their nap. Hello, baby. Hello, Alex in the mirror. Oh, Tyler's favorite toy is Ernie.
Always lose their meaning. What I feel, what I say, there's such a rift between them.
Christmas morning, 1997.
That's
for Evan. 1996. I mean, what year it is.
What
Here comes Alex. There goes Tyler.
That's to Evan. Give it to Evan. Wait. Alex and Tyler.
Alex, what are you doing? No, honey.
This one? Ready?
The moon is all we'll see. I'll ask you to fly away with me.
This is March, or no, excuse me, April 2nd.
with me, then everything's
It's a
alright.
beautiful spring day.
If you're with me, then everything's alright.
As things go on, we see Johnny has finally made it into NASA and can start his training to be an astronaut. But most importantly, we learn that Eva didn't delete River, as Neil originally thought, but rather moved River. Based on how the machine calculates memories, it can only do so much without relying on the patient's information. Also joining the astronaut program is River. Johnny never wanted to go to the moon, at least not really. He wanted to find what he had lost. He wanted Joey back, and he wanted the relationship he never really got to truly have with River. He just didn't know they were gone. The first time I played this game, I thought the relationship stuff with Johnny and River was pretty good, but it got totally overshadowed by the whole identical twin stuff. And that I didn't pay that much attention to it after that happened. This time, I think I have a newfound appreciation for the relationship. He's able to hold on to everything, giving his brother the life he never had the chance to get, while also getting to be his true self with the one other person who really understood him, still getting those milestone moments. They restore Anya, they build the house, they're enjoying their quiet life by the sea, and this time without all of this other tension and problems and things getting in the way. And as astronauts, as the two of them reach the moon together, Johnny's body passes away and he's achieved everything he could only dream of. To the Moon is the single greatest story ever told, and everything from the dialogue to the art to the music to of course the twists and turns, feeling like it's specifically designed to speak deeply to my soul in a way that nothing else has, and I assume nothing else ever will. This game actually is the most important game in my life. In fact, if I had to pick one game to keep my memories of and never be able to play another game again, I would instantly pick To the Moon. It allowed Tyler and I, who had been, whether we realized it or not at the time, gradually growing apart as we began moving into adulthood, to reconnect in a very special way. In that regard, maybe it really should just be my #1 favorite game. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this at all until December 31st. But also, there's like no gameplay here. And as great as story and everything is, that's not the only thing we play games for. You can join me tomorrow as I talk about my 9th favorite game, where I get told to stop poking people a whole lot.